Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you, and thank you very much. Welcome everyone. Hope everyone's having a good evening. Some good conversations already. My name is Mitch Savage. I'm the manager of the radio station, and I'm really excited to welcome back the Toronto Product Managers into our space. Community is really at the core of what we do here at Radio Station. So it's special to have this room filled with product leaders and professionals who are really shaping the field. I guess just a show of hands, who's in the Radio Station before? Okay, a good number, awesome. So for those of you that don't know, Radio Station is a global leader in digital skills training as well as workforce transformation. We work with individuals who are looking to build durable careers in product, data, design, marketing, as well as AI, as well as at the same time working with industry leading organizations, making sure their teams are staying ahead in the ever-changing digital economy. Beyond that, though, we really do care about our communities, specifically the product community in Toronto. So we host hundreds of events globally, looking to bring together professionals, aspiring professionals, those leaders from industry. So I do really recommend everyone take a moment tonight, take a look at the Radio Station website, in particular the upcoming events we have. We have tons of really cool product specific events that I think if you give the space, which actually find really valuable. In particular, we have one tomorrow night talking about AI and how to apply it in your product management workflows. So feel free to check that out on the front screen on campus as you're meeting. There is a kind of carousel of upcoming events we have. So please feel free to come up and events. I would love to see you all over again. Again, we're thrilled to have the TPMA back in our space this evening. I hope everyone has a really great evening. If you have any Radio Station specific questions, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Mitchell Savage, and hope everyone has a lovely evening. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, guys. Fantastic conversation. It took me a solid 5 minutes to break you all up, and I'm sorry for that, but you can keep it going after the presentation. I am really excited about this one. It's a topic that is dear to my heart. But first, some housekeeping. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people. It is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. About TPMA. TPMA is the world's Canada's longest running product community dedicated to supporting the GTA's community by product managers and leaders for over 20 years. As a registered not-for-profit and 100% volunteer run organization, TPMA brings together professionals, thanks, and Jackie, in product management and all career stages to network, learn, and grow. I just joined TPMA. I was really excited to run for the board. I started attending events when I moved to Toronto 2 years ago, and I was like, that is an organization I want to be a part of. And we really are all about community and people getting involved. So if anyone's interested in volunteering or participating in any way, I highly recommend it. It's an incredible group of people. All right, thank you. We've already heard from Radio Station. Our sponsors and perks, we've got Product Recruiter, Lightster, Pergopolis, and our fantastic volunteers. Please raise your hand, volunteers. Who are you? Hire, guys, come on, let's get it up. Make our events go round. There's absolutely no way that one person can run this caliber of events, and we are so grateful for them jumping in and doing all of the tiny things to create really great experiences for you guys. So thank you to our volunteers. And who's a community builder? Anybody here a community builder for TPMA? Amazing. So community builders, it's $30 a year plus HST. You get 25% off events and programs, and you help us kind of create an operating budget so that we can actually pour more into the experiences that you yourselves have. So I highly recommend becoming a community builder. It's a really nice thing to do if you come to even a couple of our events per year. And thank you to all of them. Amazing. Apparently we have nothing coming up, but I know we do, so watch us today. Absolutely, guys, we do have stuff coming up. Okay, amazing, so let's talk about career playbook. Why are we talking about this today? It's something that I have been thinking a lot about in my career over the last couple of years. Generally, we all expect our careers to be ladders. You know, up and to the right, the hockey stick. You know, sort of start on the associate PM track, move to senior PM, start managing somebody, get a head of position, move into directorship, VP, then you're CPO in no time, right? Well, that's actually not really that true at all for most of us. Some of us, yes. Most of us, no. And the question that I started asking myself 5 years ago is that what I even want? Because I had never questioned it before. Because that was just the track that I assumed that you went on if you were successful and good at product, right? But then fast forward to the pandemic, and I was in a VP of product role, and I was so burnt out that I could barely get out of bed in the morning. And when I moved home to Canada, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna go back to being an IC because I cannot even think about taking a management job without breaking out into a cold sweat. And that to me is an indication that maybe it's not the right fit for me in general, or maybe not the right fit for me right now. I don't know. But I think the reason why so many of us push ourselves in that direction is because we don't understand everything that's available to us. And there are so many directions and ways that we can move in product that is not just sort of the classic move into management track. And that's what I really want us to talk about here. But you know, this is the typical role progression, right? You move in, you get more strategic, you do more vision planning, you do more road mapping, you run your teams. But really, actually, this is more what our career look like. And this is certainly what mine's would look like. I've done freelancing, I've done consulting, I've worked for small companies where I was the only product person. And I've worked for huge scale enterprise organizations where I was one of 300 PMs in one department. And all of it gives me a perspective in terms of what works for me and what I love. So 2 months ago, I started as a VP of operations for a 20-person startup. I'm currently building my own team again, and I'm wearing a million different hats. Today, I was doing website design, I was creating policy for our referral program, I was talking to my social media manager about marketing, and I couldn't be happier. And it took me a lot of trial and error to figure out that that would be a good fit for me. So this is what I really hope the conversation is all about, this word salad of what our careers can and could look like. So with that, I'm going to call up our first speaker to give their perspective on the career progression. Michael, how does it pass just through me? Has been in recruiting for 15 years. Amazing. 15 years at Gurley, where he has helped thousands of professionals navigate their careers in job search and upscaling to negotiation and career transitions. He works directly with both candidates and hiring teams across startup, scale-ups, and enterprise organizations, giving them a unique perspective on what truly gets people hired in today's market. In addition to Gurley, Michael is head of training and customer success at Half Pilot, an AI-powered career coach built by Gurley. Amazing. Come on up, Michael.
Well, I want to start out by thanking Rosemary and TPMA for having me come out tonight. Really looking forward to this. I've spoken at a couple other product specific meetups, but TPMA is probably one of the longest running ones that I always enjoy coming back to. And well, I don't want to give too much of my thing away. I love the conversations I had with a couple of people when they first came in here today, and that's part of the reason you're all here. So take a big round of applause for yourselves for showing up, participating. Love to see that, and thank you for coming up. So really quickly, there's 3 pillars that I'm going to speak on really tonight, and that's going to be obviously we couldn't have a talk without AI. how you're leveraging AI is obviously changed your workflows and your career path already internally in terms of how you're operating as a product manager. But when it comes to transition, whether it be you're employed or you're looking to be employed, one of the number one things that hiring managers are now asking or is how are you leveraging AI? What was your impact using AI in your current role? And speaking as a recruiter who speaks with founders in regards to some of the largest challenges they face, that is something that is constantly being repeated, and I've never seen the industry change this fast and this quickly. Outside of AI, you can now also apply it in a different way to your job search. So we built path pilots and happy to have conversations about that later too, but you can now do more than just resume revisions that are tailored or personalized cover letters. There's ways to interact with AI for interview preparation, upskilling, market insights, being able to research in a different way. And if you are tapping into and leveraging these tools, you're falling a little bit further behind because I'm a personal proponent of the fact that LinkedIn quick reply is dead. You're not really getting anywhere with this. And so if you want to beat the AIs that are also a part of these ATSs, you need to really get more customized, personalized, and familiar with these tools. Outside of AI though, you can't just leave it to the robots. Community is a big thing, and coming out to TPMA, for example, on a monthly basis, you're gonna be able to network and build stronger relationships with your peers, hiring managers, founders, other people that are already invested in the community in a different way, and hopefully you also learn something through that experience. But outside of TPMA, you can go to larger events. Elevate's coming up next week, 7th to the 9th. As part of that, startup open house is also gonna be taking place where companies are opening up their doors and you can go in and speak with the team members there. Find out what the day-to-day is like, find out what the culture is like. Is this a place that you actually want to be and invest your time, whether hybrid, full-time, or remotely? And you gotta hit the ground running, and the more you participate in these communities, the more you're gonna open up opportunities for conversations that are gonna lead somewhere. And I bring up the conversation that I had at the beginning of the night with Asim, Nathan, and Barista. Barista actually ended up applying for a role at Asim's company, and then although the role was filled, they were able to chat, and Asim was nice enough to even offer to help her recommend the next time the role comes up. So these types of interactions and getting out and being a part of that community are going to leverage that opportunity and really dive deep into that participation. Really quickly, at the end, I know I'm running short on time here, maybe a little bit. I also want to talk about your personal branding. And the reality is most hiring managers, most recruiters, one of the very first places that they're gonna go is onto your LinkedIn profile to see what you're doing. And I'm sure some of my other speaker colleagues are probably touched upon personal branding as well. And so I'm not asking you to go out and write an essay or paper. It can be as simple as taking a photo of yourself tonight here at TPMA and speaking about what you learned or asking a conversation, engage in the platform. The more of a presence you start to showcase, the more involvement that you show an employer that you're not just in it for the 9 to 5, that you're looking to continue to take your career on a more positive and upward trajectory, that you're investing in your own future. These are the types of things that will, the nuances that'll help you stand out in terms of those hiring managers' minds and allow you that opportunity to get that interview and then showcase that at your next level. So as a quick reminder, if you're not already using AI and maximizing its potential for leveraging your career path and your job search, whether it be a transitional one or continually improving your existing job and learning the next skills that are going to help you down the road or perform even better in your current position, make sure you're using AI. Get out and participate in your community in every way you can. And make sure that you're taking and representing yourself in a nuanced way through that personal branding in order to stand out so that not everything is just gonna sound generic and robotic and as though it's all chat GPT generated. Thank you.
Into those points a lot more deeply in the panel. My next speaker is Nada Vecchi, the CEO of Alicia Your Awesome and creator of the Career Sweet Spot Framework, a former product and ad leader with 50 years experience in consulting and Fortune 500 companies. She's helped 1,000+ leaders across 10 countries get promoted or land roles in 11 startups, big tech and beyond. Welcome, Nada.
All the folks who are my clients came to see me here. I appreciate it. So I have a question for you guys. Who here feels like they are at a crossroad in their career? They are at a crossroad in their career. They feel like maybe they outgrew what they're doing. You feel like, you know, you don't know what you want to do next. Raise your hand if you belong in this camp. Okay. The most important thing that I've learned when it comes to careers is to be happy and to not actually build your life around your job. It's actually the opposite. And I learned this the hard way. This is why I help people. So I left my country of birth when I was 18 years old. Came from a very dysfunctional family. My dad was an alcoholic. And I felt forced to leave and I left everything behind. I came to Canada with 2 suitcases. I was only 18 and I got into consulting because I thought, you know, that's a dream. My parents wanted me to be a doctor or an engineer, or if you know, if none of these choices, then I'm a failure. So the closest thing, of course, was to be in a big 5 consulting firm in order to impress them. Only to realize that, you know what, this is not what I enjoy doing, but I think maybe some of you are in consulting, maybe not. We tend to get into consulting when we have no idea what we want to do with our life. So anyways, going into consulting, traveling, working on, you know, up to $1 billion platforms, there was one day where I was, it was actually my birthday. I was in a cheap motel drinking a can of beer in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, I was making the 6 figures. Yeah, I was working on these with big name clients, you know, the JC Penney's and the Marriott's and the big, you know, letters. And I thought to myself, wow, this doesn't matter. As I was looking outside of my hotel room, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing in a hotel on my birthday, drinking from a cheap, you know, can of beer from a vending machine? And that's when I realized that, you know, I had to figure out what I love doing because it just wasn't sustainable. I didn't want to show up to work. And I was tired of putting that fake mask on my face. And so what happened was I, you know, wore many hats. I pivoted multiple times, UX, you know, product, agile, all that stuff, but I still had no idea what I wanted to do. And January 2020, I woke up with a very high fever. My boyfriend had left me. And I remember working with a career coach and we got on the call and she was like, okay, so what do you want to do? And I said, yeah, all these jobs that we looked at, I don't like any of them. And I need a job yesterday. And she said to me, oh, okay, well, she knew at that point that my brain and the logical side of my brain, that's it. We need to shut that down because obviously that analysis paralysis is not working. So she got me to do this meditation exercise. And guys, I was so burnt out that all I could think of myself when she thought that, okay, this meditation exercise is going to help her manifest and imagine what job she wanted. And all I could think of was dancing in Miami, salsa on a beach. So anyway, woke up the next morning, looked outside of the window, and I remember telling my coach, you know what? I still want to be a coach because my last job was an agile transformation coach. And I said, I still want to be a coach, but I don't want to work for an organization. I don't want to like, have my hands tied to creating whatever profitability is for the organization. I still want to coach, but I don't know what type of coach. And she said, okay, well, there are three types of coaches: relationship coach, life coach, career coach. And I laughed and I said, obviously not relationship coach, considering the circumstances. But what I realized was I wanted to help people like me who feel alone. I wanted them to belong, especially not having a family. And I realized that, you know what, I want to be a career coach because I can relate to what people are going through. And I realized that that was my sweet spot. When I became a career coach after a year certification, what happened was one of my clients was based in Nigeria. He was being, not all recruiters are that way, lowballed by a recruiter for a $70,000 job. And I said, dude, you're a head of IT. No way, no way that on my watch, you're going to be making $70,000. We worked together. He made 200,000. He actually landed at Red Hat. And you know what's funny, guys? He actually texted me today and told me that he got promoted. So this is when I realized that my sweet spot is career coaching. And since then, I've worked with over 1,000 people. I've gone through multiple reinventions of my business myself, taking a risk. And yeah, this is why I'm here, guys. And this is exactly how you should answer the tell me about yourself.
Amazing. The last speaker who's going to join in the panel is Saeed Khan. He is a thought leader and a thought provoker throughout 25 years working in high tech. Saeed has held product management leadership roles in several startups and enterprise software companies in both Toronto and Silicon Valley, including Informatica, acquired by private investors, Playbook acquired by Novel, and IntelliSeek acquired by Nielsen. He founded the influential blog on product management and has been writing and speaking on the discipline of product management and new product development for a number of years. Saeed.
I get to see with the lights.
We can move over if you want.
It's okay.
Here.
So thanks everyone for coming. Let's see.
Perfect.
How many of you are currently working in product? Mostly. How many of you are looking for a role? How many of you are looking to leave product? No, because I mean, I've met a few. Sometimes you get in, everyone, like, no, how many of you study product management in university? Zero. Oh, you did? Where?
Please, masters.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so keep working. Did I see a hand over here?
I studied product management twice, like once at the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, it was a 2 credit course, and once at Johns Hopkins University, my last.
So yeah, when I started product, there were no university programs, there was no grade station, there was no product school, there was nothing, there was pregnant. And that was a 2-day, I think, course, and that was it. So most of us got into product even from somewhere else. We've done other things. And so the reason I asked if anyone was thinking of looking is because sometimes, growth scenarios talk about the career ladder, you can go into other places, and I think a lot of product people are well suited to move out of product if they're looking to advance their career. So I just want to say that, not that I'm trying to diss on product management, but that is an option if you're talking about a career ladder. I'll just say this very quickly. If you're looking to progress in your career, and you're all product people, put your product hat on and think 4 things. Okay, so strategy, differentiation, positioning, and messaging. And apply them to yourself and apply them to where you want to get to, right? So when people ask me, I coach sometimes product managers and we're looking for another role. and they'll ask about a role, and my first question is why? Why do you want that role? And where does that role get you? What's the job after the job? Right, so you should think about this thing, so like the latter, I agree with you, like the traditional sort of up and to the right, increased responsibilities. That was the thing, but now I think what you really have is, you have a lot of options, right? And that's where strategy is choice. Think about, how does this help me get to where I want to go? What's my objective in my career? And how does this help me get there? Right, and think ahead, not just the next job, but the next 3, 5 years, people think, so I'll just stop there, but those 4 words, right? So strategy, differentiation, positioning, messaging. Of the 4, which one do you think is the most important when you're thinking about jobs?
Differentiation.
Okay, you're not allowed to talk. Yes. Differentiation. That's, I'm sorry.
Michael.
As Michael said, you know, the LinkedIn submit button or whatever, like hundreds of people are applying to jobs. How do you differentiate yourself? How do you position yourself? How do you message yourself so that you come up in the small few that are really interesting? So again, that's, I'll leave it at that and feel free to ask questions.
Amazing. All right, guys, that was. Totally fine. Let's make sure the mics are on. All right. Okay, I don't need to see. So the purpose of this panel was to bring together diverse perspectives on career progression. People who have seen a lot, spoken to a lot of people, experienced a lot of different things, so that we can get a sense of how you navigate these inflection points in your career when it just feels like there are so many more questions than answers in terms of what you want and what's available and what's right. So the question that I want to kick off with is, if you're talking to a PM who is maybe at the 3 to 5 year mark and they're wondering what they should do next, and they're feeling a little bit stuck, and maybe they're also feeling a little bit cynical, what is the advice that you give a PM in that circumstance?
Just raise their hand.
No, jump in. Jump in.
I think this one is
Here. Trade you. No problem.
okay, very loaded question. But I would say that the first, this is something that I do with all my clients, right? I get clients wide range of experiences. I get clients who want to break into product. I get clients who are in that 3 to 5 year mark. I get clients who are VPs. And honestly, every single person comes to me with the same problem. I have no idea what I want to do next. I don't know what my career sweet spot is. And the framework that I take them through is we actually journal. There's an exercise that I give my clients called chunks of 10. We journal all of the happy moments that they've had in their life, not just career, because I find that with us folks, sometimes we get disconnected from who we are. We only care about what we did in a job. I have clients who actually tell me I never enjoyed any of the jobs that I had. So we can't just look at their career, you know, we look at your side hustles. Maybe you are building a product on the side. One of my clients, she was building a product at a gym on the side, and she didn't even know that it was a product that she was building. So we look at all of that, we connect the dots. We look at your personality type, and then we look at the common thread. And that's how, to your point, we figure out what your differentiator is. But it's gotta start within, you know, I think a really good quote, if you think of all of the most brilliant innovators and inventors out there, Elon Musk, you know, all of the, you know, amazing inventors. I mean, think of the Ford quote. If I asked people what they wanted, they'd have horses and carriages, right? So I think rather than fixating on what's out there in the market and what all of our friends are doing, we gotta start within what we enjoy, and that's the starting point.
Right?
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of focus on the question, if you're cynical,
Yeah,
because I'm cynical. I come across.
I was free.
So I think the thing I would do and the thing that I would recommend is try and take a step back, because you're impacted by environment, right? I've talked to people who are working in dysfunctional environments. They're frustrated, you know. I haven't met a single product manager who doesn't want to do a good job. I've met many product managers who are prevented from doing a good job by their work environment, by their culture, by their boss, by their peers, etc. So it's easy to get cynical. And I think the thing is to say, okay, take a step back and ask yourself, what do you really want to do? Like, what is it that would remove that cynicism from you? So, you know, if I could just go into work and get my work done and not have to fight fires every day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Like whatever those things are. And then say, okay, now, can you make those changes where you are? Is there a way to shift what you're doing, shift the mindset, shift the process, whatever it is, to remove some of that? You're not going to fix it. Like you can't fix broken. Like, and I'll just say this. I know a lot of people who've been laid off recently, and every single one of them was happy. They're like, yes, I lost my job, but I don't have to go into that environment. I'm being honest. Like, I'm going to ask a question, and I know there's one person here who will raise their hand, but who loves their job and loves the culture in their job and just like can't wait to go into work every day? Okay, so the vast majority of you did not raise your hand, right? And that's the reality. That's the reality of the work environment. So I think what you have to understand is that, yeah, a lot of jobs aren't going to be great, but you can shift things a little bit if you approach it the right way. And there's lots of ways to do that. If you can't do that in your current job, and that's reality too in a lot of cases, then your other option is, how do I go somewhere else? And the somewhere else could be somewhere else in the company. Doesn't mean you're stuck in that company and you can't go anywhere else. So it could be somewhere in that company, or it could be in another job and you can start a job search one way or the other. So I think that's the way I'd look at it, is understand what the real problem is. What are you trying to achieve? What can you change? What agency do you have? And then what can you move on to if you can't change the cause of.
Michael? Yeah.
You have speakers speak louder, so we can't quite.
Is your mic on? Let me see. Oh, yeah, so you might want to put the mic closer to your mouth. Okay, thanks, Andrew. Appreciate that.
Everyone.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Normally I don't have trouble being heard, so that would be a first. In regards to making transitions, you have to focus on your own passion and what areas that you're willing to assess and compromise on. The reality is you should not be applying to every product manager role that is posted out there. And if we're truly being honest with ourselves, once you do your own personal fit and assessment, you would probably agree that you're probably not the right fit for certain roles. I would encourage you, don't apply, don't waste your time. You still have to take chances for sure, and job descriptions are only one piece of the puzzle, but that's why tools that you can use for AI to customize for specific aspects of that, the research you can do now in regards to companies, the cultures, those aspects of that. If you have money, you can pay for paid coaching that will also help you take you through that as well, but there's other avenues out there that you can leverage in terms of AI and tools that will help you accomplish understanding where can I take my career, whether it's in product or outside of it. And many conversations I had tonight with professionals that are here, you're starting to see your jobs leak into other areas, whether it be design, whether it be engineering, whether it be sales or marketing. And you can use other tools within AI to help bridge those gaps or enhance that knowledge and transform your career in a different way. But if you're looking to either climb the ladder within product management, or maybe look at career alternatives outside of that and how you can leverage the skills that you've already built. That I would say the number one thing right now is to use a tool like an AI or a Pathfinder.
So much good stuff to go off of. I think one of the reasons why I really wanted to have this evening is because I wanted to have a really rich discussion on the difference between being a builder and being a manager in certain respects. So I had mentioned in my intro that I had, kind of careened into leadership. I was, I think, of my biggest team, managing a team of 12 as a VP of product. And I was just absolutely shattered, burnt out, like I was a husk. And so I did what you recommended, and I thought about, what do I love about, like, why am I doing this? What do I love about product? How did I even get into product? And it was like, I love building stuff. And so I went back to building stuff, which was really scary because all of my friends were going on to being even bigger roles, bigger jobs. And I was back in a principal PM position. And I was like, ooh, it felt awful. But I was also, for the first time, loving what I was doing. And then I realized I do like managing people, and I do want to be challenged in that way. And I do like running teams, and I know how to do that. But I need to do that in an environment where I can build. So where am I now? I'm at a startup where the team that I'm building a team while I build this product and experience. And so I think that that's something that we also need to think about is like, you talked about that, say, the context around the role makes such a big difference. Is it a huge 10,000 person company, or is it a scale up, or is it a 20-person startup? So how do you guys talk to people about the context of the role and help people understand what might be the right fit for the next role, the next move, in terms of like business model, size of company? What do you think?
I would say from my side of the thing, career, it's about asking questions and helping people to understand that themselves in some capacity. But assessing what's important to you and what value at certain different stages, maybe money is the most important. Maybe in certain cases, you're like, you know what, I don't care if I have the fancy title or I'm a founder or a CEO or a VP of product. These things don't matter to certain people, and you have to figure out what matters to each and every one of you and give that a proper assessment, because you can find joy, and I tell people all the time, if you've gotten to the point where you don't enjoy going into work every day, interacting with the people you are going to be working with, you're already past the point when you should have already started your search. Because overall in life, like, you spend in some cases more time with your work colleagues than you will with family, friends. And so you have to make the most out of that time. And that comes from answering some difficult questions.
Like what? What question?
What is it that you value most? Like, is it your time? Is it your family? Is it your house and having the Instagram life? Is it the title? Is it?
I'm gonna keep poking you. So if somebody is like, no, I really focus on work-life balance, my family's the most important thing, what should they be looking for?
What are you willing to trade off in order to get that? So it's a series of follow-up questions that would help you arrive at, okay, these are the keys for what I need to be happy and successful for yourself. You realize, like, my passion is building, and you wanted to find an opportunity where you can still do that, but also have the opportunity to build a team, which is a skill that you've acquired from your time at Shopify and these other places. And even though you have the big name in Canadian tech on your resume, that may not have always been where you felt the most fulfilled in terms of your time and what you're doing and why you're doing it now. And so through asking some of those more difficult questions, and not only just getting to that first answer, but iterating on that, similar to with your prompting for AI, you want to continually probe down there in order to get to the truth of the matter and what am I willing to trade off? What sacrifices am I willing to make in order to make this happen?
Great answer. Context, what do you guys think? How do we think about what's the right context for us as PMs? What's gonna work for us best?
Context in what is that?
Well, for me, like, I work actually Spotify. Sorry. It's okay. The number of times it happens to me. I was the least happy. Even though it was the company that I always wanted to work for, the second I got in there, I was like, oh no, this is not gonna work for me. It was a big scaled company and I, sort of felt like kind of shoved into a tiny little pixel. And I realized then that I'm actually happier at like a scale up or smaller, where I have the opportunity to really have an impact on a much bigger portion of the product experience or strategy. So yeah, that type of context is how I was thinking about it.
Yeah, so part of my career archetype assessment, there are a number of frameworks that help me really get into the root of what people enjoy and what is the right decision for them. And it's really hard because, like a lot of you said here, when we feel like we're forced into a situation because of life circumstances where a job fell into our lap and we just fall into it, we don't take the time to think about these things, right? And I know some of you, I can see the look on your eyes, you're probably thinking like, well, it's easy for you to come here and preach and say, oh, go after what you love, you're a founder, you have your own company, you make your own rules, right? And some of us are founders. But I'll tell you something, right? It doesn't matter whether the person is a founder or works at a company. We actually all are empowered to make choices. Like I can't sit here and say, hey, I can easily say, I need to get a client, that I'm gonna work with any client, even if they're difficult, even if they're gonna be a nightmare client, right? I could have that mentality and I could chase the money and I could, feel like I'm forced to do these things, and I could also be miserable. So it's not that different if you think about it, right? And it's in some respects it's harder because, like I don't have that predictable, let's say, cash flow, and I have to source my own clients. There are so many nuances that go into play. But I'll tell you something that I realized working with over 1,000 people that helps them become successful. How many of you know Jimmy Fallon on Saturday Night Live? You all know him? Cool. I heard his interview on the Diary of the CEO, and he said that he had that specific goal where he said, I want to be on Saturday Night Live. He came from a family that weren't in, media, weren't in any of that stuff, weren't acting, they didn't have connections, they didn't have network. He was like doing stand-up comedy and getting paid $7 just to do that, just to pursue that dream. But he ended up getting it because he was very specific on what he wanted. And I know you guys were like, yeah, but that's, Jimmy Fallon, that's the 1 in 1,000 millions, right? I had a client, his dream was to build games. He didn't know how to code, he was a truck driver. He landed at Miniclip, he made his dream come true after we worked together because he had a specific goal. This is what I want to do. It's not about title, it's about you having a vision. What did I say in my story at the beginning? I told my coach that I want to help people drive their career rather than be at the mercy of the organization. This is what I do. This is why I have a business for 5 years through the ups and downs. So my advice for all of you is to throw the titles out of the window, throw the whole linear ABC, I gotta follow this framework out of the window. Sit down with yourself and tell yourself, when I strip all of these things away, what is my specific goal? And I'm gonna close it with 3 things that you need to think about. What is the problem that I enjoy solving? What is my collaboration style? How do I like collaborating with people? Am I introverted? Do I like structured an environment? What kind of environment, what kind of culture do I enjoy being part of? And then what is the social impact that I want to make? Those are the three things that you need to think about to make the decision.
What do you think?
Sorry. I liked your point about being very focused and having very clear objective, because I think that's like your intentions are important. It's not just I need to get a job, it's I need to do something so I can achieve an objective, right? So as I said at the beginning, what's the job after the job? Where are you headed to? Do you know what direction you need to go to? When I think about the context, I think when I look back at all the companies I worked at and all the jobs I had over a lot of years, the ones that were best were the ones where I had really good managers. Like the manager made the job better, right? I had crappy managers, and I'll be honest with you, who couldn't care less, who were too busy managing up for their own career. But there were several jobs where the manager was there to do his job or her job, but was there for the team. And I think when you're interviewing, when you're looking for your next role, that's something to really think about. They're interviewing you, you should be looking at them as well. Your manager, is this a person who I could work with, who will work with me, who will help me get to the next level? And I think it's not an obvious thing. Like I don't think about that all the time, but when I think back, like my very first product management job, it was here in Toronto, it was 1997, so it was a long time ago. But I went to work. I went to work in a company, and I just wanted the job. I wanted to be a product manager. And my boss, they hired him in as a VP of marketing. His name was Dwayne, and he was amazing. And I didn't realize how amazing he was until after I left the company. But I modeled myself on Dwayne many times because I saw how he helped us, how he supported us, how he parted, the waves for us so that we could move forward. And I think that's something just to be very conscious of. I think that for someone early in their career, absolutely. Like if I had my second job as my first product management job, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I wouldn't be in product management. My third job, same thing. It wasn't until my fourth job in product management that I got another good boss. But those are the things you should be thinking about. Like big and small companies, yes, like it matters. Startups can be chaotic, etc. But a good manager who actually cares about the team and cares about developing people is probably the most important thing you can think about.
It's a really good tee up for my next question, which is how do you know you're ready for management? And the thing is that if somebody's talking about you as a manager, the way that Saeed is talking about his first manager, you were ready. If somebody's talking about you the way he talks about his second manager, you weren't ready. And I think so many of us have been at the mercy of really crappy managers. If I had a nickel, I'd have a lot of nickels.
Be millionaires.
I'd be a millionaire. I would, and it's sad. And this is, I think, a really important conversation, especially for product managers, is that the managerial skill set is not the same skill set that makes you a good product manager. It's a different skill set. So and I'm saying this emphatically because you will literally torture people if you move into management too quickly, and you will make a lot of people miserable. And that was something that I realized when I was in leadership and I was really burnt out. And I was like, I don't want to go home worried about whether or not people are complaining about me. And I don't feel like I'm in a position to execute this role appropriately because I took it really seriously. So question for you guys, working with recruits, working with, mentees or people who are talking to you about PM, working with your clients, how do you know somebody's a good fit for a management role or not? Heavy question. Heavy question. Come on, guys. Don't whip.
You gotta think about how long it's gonna be here.
Be honest.
The reality is, not everyone is always kind of for a management role. And to Saeed's point, I think if you've had good, great, and terrible managers across your career, you can understand nuances and what specifically spoke to you about each and one of them. In that case, I would say to those individuals, if you are thinking of just starting out in management, reach out to those people. Reach out to your network, reach out to people whose opinions you trust. Reach out to a former manager if they're no longer your manager, and if they are your manager, put your hand up and let them know. Listen, this is something I'm interested in building and adding to my skill set. And I'd like your honest feedback of where my strengths and weaknesses are, what can I improve upon? Is there a future opportunity coming up where I can showcase my abilities in this capacity? I think that those that have been great, or at least hopefully good managers would take the time. I'm not so sure the terrible ones would probably take the time, nor do you really wanna take their instincts maybe. But that would be one place I would start. For myself in assessing candidates, when I speak with professionals on behalf of my clients, it is also because of the context that I have from them and what they're looking for. And as I said, the job description is only one piece of the puzzle. Some of the stuff isn't always public, so the more research, the more insights you do into organizations. And yes, there's Glassdoor, I always say with a grain of salt, because most people tend to write terrible responses and really speak very highly about the negative things that go on in their life, and not enough of us that can take the time to go and speak about the positives. I might have been one of the old people saying that I answered, yes, I really love my job and where I work, and I'm a new father, but I still, after a couple of weeks of my son being around, I actually still go into the office every day because I love working with my colleagues and coworkers, and because of that experience, I don't foresee myself making a transition anytime soon. But for each individual, that's gonna change.
What do you guys think? What if you kind of encounter somebody who you're just like, you know, you're too green or you haven't had enough experience? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, back to your point, like shit, I lost half of my pancreas because of a loss. True story. True story. Because a loss from health. Threatened to basically fire me if I didn't relocate because I was remote at the time. I was the only person based in Toronto, and everyone else was in the UK and the US. There's something that I learned from consulting, actually. There are different tracks, right, to move up. You don't have to be a manager to move up, you can be a specialist. I worked with a staff engineer at Meta who was making $500,000. And I've also worked with VPs who are only making 200,000. So if your mind is like, oh, the only way I can make more money is for me to move up, wrong answer. There are different ways for you to grow in your career and have higher compensation. You don't have to manage people, you can also be like super laser focused expert, specialized in your craft in order to grow in your career. If you, and then also you gotta understand like the business model and the type of organization, right? Like some organizations, part of being a people manager is you're gonna have to deal with a lot of HR stuff, a lot of paperwork. Maybe you don't wanna do that. If the reason you wanna manage is because you have an itch for mentoring and coaching people, again, you don't have to be a manager in order to do that. There are other pathways. You can be a principal and still coach people. But you know, you gotta understand basically what is it that you are interested in and why you wanna manage. I do have some clients who get a lot of imposter syndrome around being promoted and managing. And what I ask them is, imposter syndrome, actually a lot of people are terrified of having imposter syndrome. And I actually think that that is the healthiest thing you can ever have. Because here's the thing, if you don't have imposter syndrome, I mean, think about, a lot of you have a product mindset, right? Think about like the first product you ever launched. You're scared, you're taking a risk. you're like excited about it, you're doing it for the first time, right? That means you're challenged. But if you're not challenged, if you're bored, then of course you're not gonna have imposter syndrome. So don't let imposter syndrome be the reason for you not to move up. Let it be in terms of what is it that you enjoy? Do you love mentoring people? Do you like, working across the organization? Do you wanna deal with more responsibility and budget? Are you willing to also deal with people at the executive level and shelter people from the bottom? If you don't like politics, if you don't like work politics, and if I have people who actually enjoy, dealing with the politics and the persuasion. If you don't enjoy that, then you might wanna rethink being a manager as well. So these are just like high level guidelines and to make the decision.
Yeah, so the politics is probably a really good point to pick on. So I don't know if you've heard of a book called Turn the Ship Around by
I
David
have.
Marquette.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so I won't tell the story of the book, but he was a submarine captain who got assigned to a submarine he knew nothing about, and he had to and it was the worst performing submarine in the US Navy, and he had to turn the ship around metaphorically. But he has a quote, and he said that the job of, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact words, but the job of an individual contributor is to be the best in the system that they're in. And the job of a leader is to create a system so the individual contributors can be the best they can be, right? And I think that, I love this quote. I wish I knew it verbatim, but I think that's the difference between when you become a manager, right? When you're an individual contributor, and I'm talking even in product management specifically, you have a very clear focus. As I said earlier, I've never met a product manager who didn't want to do well, but they were in bad systems. When you become a manager, you're not just managing people, you're managing the people, you're creating the environment so they can excel. And then you're managing up, and you're managing up in ways that you probably never even imagined. And how many people went to management school? Like not an MBA, like management school, like how to be a manager in a company. Like, oh, all right. There's always one in the.
I actually worked with one of the, big banks in India, worked with them for about 8 years. So they had as you progressed in your career ladder, they had people that our, practice champion was a colonel from the army. So he put a lot of managers through a lot of, situations. So basically you were put in a strategic, so yeah, I can talk about Johari Windows psychology for managers. I aced that stuff in the second MBA that I did at Hopkins because my company literally, taught me how to do all that.
Amazing.
No, that's great. I was expecting nobody to put up their hand. But the point is,
It worked for a company long enough that
it's
you
a
should-
skill set that very few of us, some of us are lucky. It's a skill set that very few of us are taught. Most companies don't have kind of a manager in training kind of thing. They don't teach you this. You get promoted. Hey, great, say you're now managing this team. And then what do you do, right? So I think the thing that you have to think about if you want to become a manager is, how am I going to not just manage people and mentor people, but how am I going to create the system and the environment that these people can do well in? And that's a job of any manager. If you're a sales manager, that's your job. You want to create a sales environment where your salespeople can work well. You're an engineering manager, same thing. The difference in product management is that product management is cross-functional, and there probably isn't a good system in place already. And so you're going to have a lot of work to do. The other thing that people told me who moved into sort of leadership and product management is that most product organizations are small, and it's a lonely job. There's not 5 other product leaders in your company who you can talk to, right? There might be 5 other product managers, but you're probably one of the few, if not the only one. So it's something to think about, that you're going to move away from the product, you're going to move away from all the stuff that you knew, you're going to be dealing with a whole different class of problems, and you're going to have to be thinking much more organizationally, much more systematically, and much more sort of politically. So I'll just stop there.
Sorry, I just want to kind of piggyback on what Saeed said.
I will say, coming from those that are, professionals that I've worked with or spoken with, one of the largest challenges that they often face when they do move into management roles is actually more on the managing upside, and the challenges that faces than the managing the people that are direct reports into them. And so in addition to discovering whether or not you want to focus on others and advancing their career paths that might be reporting into you, you also have to get the context or understanding of what am I getting myself into? Who am I reporting into after that? How do I manage up the pipeline to the executive levels? And kind of getting back to the politics side, there's a different politics side that comes into that, and the messaging and how you have to now play multiple roles or wear multiple hats between who you're interacting with. The good news is you're all product managers and cross-functional anyways, so you're already wearing multiple hats and working with different teams. But this is probably one of the number one things that people that are looking to move into management don't always take into consideration is what's the managing up aspect of the role in addition to managing down.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought up. Oh, I'm gonna trade you. I'm so glad you brought up, turn the ship around. I actually got to see him speak at a conference. He was magical. It was one of the most interesting books I've read about management. And it speaks to kind of the last area that I want to ask a question on, and then we're gonna have to wrap, but, you know, entrepreneurship, freelancing, working for yourself, building your own thing. This is where we get into the conversation about what is the difference between management and leadership. And leadership is its own set of skills. It's the ability to step forward and present a vision. Saeed, you've obviously created an entire career around that. So talk to me about your experience and the aspects of or character, traits that, served you well in terms of, building your own thing and leading companies while building them.
Okay, so I'll say, so I worked in product management as a product manager for 17 years. And then I started doing consulting, and I've been doing that for about 8 years, so overall 25 years. I think those 17 years were a good setup for the consulting work because everyone who's worked in product management, you're fighting fires, you grow thick skin, you focus on what's important, you prioritize out what isn't important. You really have to be a go-getter, and you have to really stay focused on what you want to get done. If I look back in my career, the first 5 years I was learning. Like, it wasn't until I moved to California in 2000. So 3 years after I started product management, and I worked for a couple of startups. And if I'm honest with myself, I wasn't sure what I was doing in those 2 startups. It wasn't until I got to Informatica, which was a company at the time about 250 million in size, that I had to figure it out and be a much better product manager. And so, like, there was this progression that happened over the years. I did a lot of different roles, came back to Canada. But I think that the frameworks that people talk about, and I'm not picking on the frameworks you've mentioned, but people talk about frameworks all the time. No, but frameworks is a thing in product management that just gets overused.
Framework.
Yeah. I think all that stuff is good, but they're tools. And if you don't understand the fundamentals, if you don't understand what you're really trying to achieve and how you can achieve it, no framework is going to help you. So I think in terms of like leadership, entrepreneurship, I think those 17 years, I figured things out. I hope I did anyway. If I didn't, then I'm pretty slow. And then I think working as a consultant, I'm an independent consultant. I don't work for a company or anything like that. it's all on you, right? You have to get up, you have to go find clients, you have to address their needs. I'm learning a lot. Every client I work with, I learn a lot from. The thing I miss, I'll just say this as a consultant, is I don't get to go as deep as I used to go as a product manager. I could go in really deep because I had all the. So I think I'm straying from your question, but I think that you really have to get to the fundamentals, and you have to be really sure about what your context is and why you're doing the work. Like if I look back at sort of the mistakes I've made in my career, in terms of jobs and things like that, I really didn't have clear context of where I was going, what I was trying to achieve. I'll stop.
I think we have some time for some audience questions. I bungled the Slido, that's on me, it's my first event for TPMA, guys, I apologize. So we're just gonna have folks stand up and speak loudly. First hand, nice job.
So, well, I've been looking for project manager, product owners. I like what you mentioned about differentiation. And, my question was that when we review hundreds of resumes, there's like convergence. They're so similar written by AI. So what advice would you give people that are applying for positions, differentiate in that scenario?
Very good.
So, specifically in your resume, it's not just about your duties anymore, it's about your impact and showing measurables. Outside of that, as I mentioned, like your community participation in other ways, make sure be including some of those details, whether you're a volunteer or you're an attendee, maybe you belong to TPMA on a membership basis, be able to showcase that in a different way as well. It comes down to personalization though, and well, like cover letters to some people say are dead. I think the statistics are still showing like a 2x increase in opportunity to getting interviews by having a personalized cover letter, because you're able to speak to things outside of the CV or LinkedIn profile that differentiate you and make you unique. I believe very much that the one size fits all approach for resume application is gone. And that's why if you're not using some sort of AI tool to help you tailor your CV and your experience to specific jobs, with the tools that are being used internally now to assess, it may be keyword based, and we're beyond that now with agentic workflows and AI agents, that they're now able to piece together information in different ways. So I would even say getting away from that traditional what I once saw in the industry as being a one-page resume, like you're limiting your ability to provide context in a lot of ways, and the tools that are available now and even getting more powerful, they're gonna be able to assess and determine whether or not you are part of that cream of the crop. I would also say, don't just stop with the application, you gotta go beyond that, and some of the most unique ways is I've seen people that have, once they send their application, followed up, whether it be with another email, and in the case of product management, it being like, listen, I downloaded the product, here's some bugs, here's some ways I was thinking about it, here's another way that I thought might be advantageous for your team to look at because of this experience and how it wasn't seamless. And that person ended up standing out in regards to the hiring team and got the opportunity to interview and actually got the job. So part of how you differentiate is how you participate, and so it's what are you using, how are you using it, why are you using it, and applying that.
I think I recently went through a job hunt and it was incredibly shocking how profoundly impactful it was for me to retailer my CV around the impact that I had rather than what I did. It was like, what did the thing that I do for the company? And if your CV isn't talking about that, you're 2 years behind. You have to, and AI can help you with that. You know, it's very easy. There's some prompts that you can look for. But it's not about what you did, it's what the thing that you did achieved for the company, that's the most important thing. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Same, right? When you presented yourself, it was actually interesting because you said product owner, product manager, you listed a bunch of roles. So is there one specific one or is there like a variety of roles that you're thinking of applying to?
Well, I'm hiring and I just asking on behalf of people applying.
Yeah.
Gotcha,
Neither of
gotcha,
us
gotcha.
seen it.
But you know what, the way I heard it, I think it's good that I heard it that way, because that's the number one thing. Like, back to your thing about frameworks, I break frameworks too in my own, program all the time. I think we're too fixated on the tactical stuff, resume, all that kind of thing. I had a client, he's a technical product manager. He landed at MongoDB. Out of thousands of applicants, they picked him. Was it his resume? Was it because he had a magical bunch of keywords in his resume? No. He simply was like, his experience, like all of the composition of his experience were exactly what they needed. He had a technical background, he was an entrepreneur in Mexico. The reason he's a great fit for MongoDB is because he was a developer too, and he understands the psychology of developers and the product that he was building, that they wanted him to build, was for developers. So the thing that you guys wanna understand is, this is why we emphasize a lot in figuring out what you want, you need, and differentiation. How do you differentiate yourself? You've gotta understand the composition of all of my experiences, my story, if I look at my entire career story. What is different about it? And what organization that's trying to solve a problem, would need that type of story that I bring to the table, right? So when I actually teach people how to build their resume, like going to the tactical thing. One of the things that I say is you need to tell your story at the organization, and by story, what do I mean by that? What is the business, what stage was the organization in? Was it trying to scale? Was it trying to grow? Was it trying to be profitable? Why did they bring you on to build this product? What is the why behind the product? Bring in that context. In order to make it relatable for an organization that's going through that stage to see you as a fit. Tell me what the product is about. Don't go into this generic launch product from 0 to 1, blah, 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 right? Like that's all ChatGPT stuff. When you bring in the context of what is this product, what type of customers, what is the dollar value of that product, who did you work with, what are some of the adversity that you went through? Because that's another thing that people also forget. The reason we have a lot of imposter syndrome is sometimes we're like, oh, but I was part of a failed product, this product never launched, it doesn't count, I'm not gonna talk about it, no. That's actually very useful, because the organization will see that, holy crap, like you went through all this, like I had a client who was VP of marketing, right? She was going through an insane merger and acquisition at her organization, and she helped the product team through that. So I said, oh my God, that's very important context. The fact that you went through a merger and acquisition, and the fact that you went through like a change in the C-level, those are things that you guys need to talk about when you describe your experiences, and that's what I mean when I say tell your story versus just, I did this, I did that, I'm just gonna take the resume keywords and put them in, okay?
Another question?
Kind of building on to that, you mentioned that the job post often doesn't have all the business context, it doesn't say everything that they're really looking for. How do you read between the lines to see what story you need to tell? Or what would make you a fit, or if you even would be a fit?
Part of that is gonna come down to research and looking into the companies, first see obviously if you have a direct connection. Because if you know someone within the organization, they'll get a first-hand account. A lot of these organizations will host events that you can attend to go and meet some people that are actually working at the event. But using AI tools to even do the research and well, I said like one of the resources will probably be Glassdoor. There's other ways you can dig deeper into these companies. How much has their product team grown in the last 6, 12, 18 months? Is this a rehire or have they been hiring for this position for the last 10 months? Or is this something that's a brand new role because of growth? What are the other insights in regards to this company that might be important to me assessing whether or not this positions could be there 6 months from now? So I would say there's those types of actions that you can take to try and read between the lines. The obvious best way is to get someone within the company. Some of the postings will now even include the hiring manager's LinkedIn profile or a resource connected with the company. I urge people to go and check that person out and learn about them, what they're doing, where they're going, what meetup they're attending. And so that you can totally stalk them and TP. Those are fucking people that don't want that. But the reality being, you can gain insights if you take some additional steps in time. A lot of people, well, let's be honest, no one really likes job searching all that much. I've yet to meet many people who do, but those that take the extra effort and that are going to do what the other 90% aren't, are the ones that are gonna have more opportunities for conversations.
Thank you.
We have a few questions from Zoom.
Sure.
One question is, as a student, how can I break into this industry, and would having a PM certification help me break into it?
Is it from Brain Station? So I got my first product manager job in the previous millenniums, but I had never been a product manager, but I'd worked in software for a number of years at the time. And that job that I got, product management job, was related to the work that this other company was doing. So I was in a startup already, not as a product manager, and the product manager job was in a sort of related type of technology. So the point there is that if you're trying to get into product management, first of all, if you're straight out of school, don't go into product management. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, you will leave product management after a couple of years, unless you go into an APM program, right? An associate product management program, like a program that's actually designed to help new employees, younger, less experienced people to kind of transition in. So what I would say is think about, again, I'm going to repeat myself, the job after the job. So I want to be a product manager. What's the job I can get that I can start and along that path? So I've known a lot of people who got into product management by first going to work in companies in customer support, or in even developers have moved into product management, or professional services, or something else. What's an adjacent
Sales.
role?
I know salespeople who went into PM.
Wow.
Yeah. They knew the customer and then they were able to be a PM.
I've met sales engineers, absolutely. I've never actually met a salesperson. But the point is, what's an adjacent job that you can get coming out of school that'll give you exposure, give you experience, give you context, and then look to transition, ideally in the same company, because you can move internally a lot easier than you could into another company.
Any other questions? One more? Yeah.
Yeah, my question is about moving into a managerial role. There's been a lot of talk about good managers and bad managers today. And I just think back to all the good managers I've had, and they've always done one thing, and that's ask the people reporting to them how they can help them, like how they would like to be managed. And they did it. So is that the cheat code to being a good manager, you think? Or like what could be the pitfalls of just asking them, oh, what's the best way to manage you, and then just do that?
No, I think that's a really good cheat code. I think active listening as a manager is really helpful. I think there are a lot of different styles that you can take. But I think creating a dialogue, one of the best, speaking of books that are really great, is The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And he talks in that book a lot about the importance of one-to-ones with direct reports, and how when he was leading a company, if he knew of a manager that wasn't doing one-to-ones with their direct reports, he fired that manager immediately. Or told them, you like start doing them now, and if I find out you're not doing them, you are fired immediately. So having a manager that's engaging with you and wants to engage with you and is interested in what your context is, I think is really crucial.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. So I think that's part of what you want in a good manager, but that's not the cheat code, so to speak. I think the best managers, and going back to the Marquette quote, it's that they're creating an environment that you can succeed in, right? And what that means is that they know through experience, through having done the job, through, you know, sort of observing, understanding the larger context, what hurdles, what obstacles are in your way, and working to remove them, even proactively. I think the best managers are the ones who, yes, they will ask you how I can help you, but you don't always know what help you need, right? I mean, I remember as my very first product manager job, and I'll use Dwayne again. I thought I knew what I was doing, even though it's a new product manager. Oh, I can do this, I can do this. And Dwayne would call me in his office once in a while and say, hey, how's that going? And he'd just listen. And then he'd give me some advice, unprompted. I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And he was watching, and he was, you know, seeing what I was doing. So I think he was creating the environment for me to succeed without me even realizing it. And I think that's the thing that you want to sort of do as a manager, is say, okay, how do I help my team succeed in ways that they don't even understand? Because they're not seeing the context that I'm seeing, right? I didn't see his context. So I think that's something to sort of think about is yes, there's this sort of direct empathy and understanding, but then there's this sort of larger, sort of proactive.
And I just want to quickly add to that too, because I'm really passionate about this topic, having been in my previous life an agile enterprise agile coach and seeing a lot of dysfunction in organizations. Also last year, I worked with, part of what I do too is I also coach founders, and a wonderful thing is I learned from them too. And one of the founders that I worked with, his specialty was actually scaling collaboration in organizations. And one of the things, as part of, you know, the system that him and I, you know, were articulating, is that a good manager has a really good eye for talent. So if you're the kind of person who's able to spot people's talent and understand what their zone of genius is, so that you can put them in parts of a team in order to be brilliant, then that's a sign that you're gonna be a great manager. Part of it is innate, but part of it is also like, you need to have that desire and passion. And also putting like those systems and structures in place for teams to collaborate effectively. As well as being a good teacher, right? Because some people are really great at what they do, but they don't know how to break it down at the tactical level in order for people to be successful, and they don't know how to articulate what they want clearly. So if you don't set clear expectations for people, how are they gonna succeed?
I really wish there was a cheat code for being a great manager, because I would take that, write a book, and make everybody here buy it. But the reality is, I think it comes down to more along the lines of communication and understanding, because you very rarely see in any management role where every single person, whether they be a direct report and you're managing down or you're managing up to your executives, each person is going to be managed in somewhat of a different way. And what works best for some might not work best for others. So if you're thinking about management, I would encourage you to start thinking of almost others instead of yourself as the primary, and putting that as the perspective. And I think that would lead you along the road in the right direction to make the impact for each of the people that you're managing, either up or down. But I don't often run into too many great managers in my time who were truly selfish people. Like it's really hard to be a great manager and be a truly selfish individual.
Okay, guys, that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining us for the great question. And we'll see you guys once we are. Thank you so much.